Hello, Eugene. Hello, Kate. Good to see you.
Nice
Hi,
to
Beth.
see you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. So it's fun to see familiar and new faces, and over time, I will get to know you guys more and more. But there's a lot of familiar faces from people who have done my past group coaching classes before. For those of you who are not familiar, my group coaching classes are always on Zoom like this, and it's always a small, like relatively intimate community where people do end up knowing each other, supporting each other, and we have a lot of fun, right, Kate? And Azita.
High-waisted.
I love it. I tell everybody now to take your classes.
Pull them down and go like saggy, crotchy.
Okay. Yeah. So the way this format, I had to find the voice. But just so you guys know, like I like interaction. So feel free to use like the little hand raises or hearts or, like little reactions. There's the chat box here as well that you're welcome to drop comments in, and I will answer them as I can. Can I move this window? Oh, I can move this window. Okay. And then the way that people have been engaging in this is that the chat is more like for side chatter commentary, for you guys to interact with each other. Oh, I see Yuki too. Good to see you back. And so, if I say something funny or if you're really agreeing, people will drop stuff in the chat and like, oh my God, this happened to me too, and stuff like that. So that's kind of like a fun place for you guys it's like passing notes to classmates during class time. Andriana, good to see you too. And Jen, oh my God, so fun to see like so many familiar faces back again. And Tamar, sorry. But so while we're waiting, it's like right at the strike of on the hour right now. So let me just give you a little rundown of what is happening today. So I created a class called Like Nobody's Business, and I'll get to a little bit more about how I created that and stuff in the past, but I'm basically giving you a little snippet of it today. And so you can find out more, I have the little QR code here that you can scan and you can find out more. You can leave it on the side later.
You're gonna what?
I was gonna call these people with you on the phone.
Okay. I have a webinar from 2 to 3. So anytime.
Okay. I need to have it like on like automatic mute when you come into the room. But yes. Samuel, good to see you as well back. Samuel's an alumni as well. A lot of alumni on here. I love it. So one thing that I want to remind you too is that like our business will always continually be a work in progress, even for me, right? It's can everybody mute their mics? It will take me a long time if I have to find every side chatter. Okay, thank you. All right. But yes, so it's, even for me, every year, at least every year, and probably every quarter is more realistic, is I always sit down and I reevaluate my business. I reevaluate to see if it is still a reflection of what I want, how I want my life to be. Am I happy? I know it sounds so cliche, but I really do ask myself that, because how many of you guys have felt like, you're hustling, and then you start to just, it's like you're on a train that you just keep chasing. And then eventually you're like, where am I going? Or what am I chasing? And what, and the next thing you know, you look back and you're like, wait, where am I? And is this even where I want it to be? Have any of you guys felt that way? You just kind of show like hands if you can relate to that. This doesn't even have to be in your business, could be in your career as well, right? In life, like it could be even social media, to be honest. Like oftentimes we start to just chasing those likes, and people like certain content we do, we keep doing it. And then the next thing you know, it's like, wait,
Yeah.
what was the point of my, what's my message? And okay, I hear another voice. Oh, I think I found you. Okay. Is there a way I can mute everyone? You guys know? Like,
Yes, there is.
mute all. I see it.
मेरा
Okay.
यही हुआ तो मैं बैठ गई अपना मोबाइल पर मैंने चेंज किया मैंने कहा तो कर
Yes. Okay. I found the mute all button. All right. So, but anyway, yeah. So my point is, it's important. What I'm sharing with you today is something that will be relevant to your business, regardless of where you are in your business. It was something that helped me started when I first started. And it was something that helps me reevaluate and get back on track every year, because every year is a different year. Every year, especially if you do weddings, every year is a different market, sadly to say, and the market changes. And so you do have to kind of reevaluate and see where it's going. And then COVID, right? When that came, and then now we're reopening back up and business is going to look a little bit different as well. And so if you try to continually to do things exactly the same, you're not going to innovate. You're not going to keep up with the times. So as a business owner, as an artist, it is really important that we check in with ourselves and make sure that we're happy. So the objective of this program is building a life that you love. Notice how I said life and not business, because I find that if you focus on just building the business without putting yourself first, that is the key to burnout. That's also the key to possibly becoming a slave to your business. Like, it is going to dictate your life. It is going to dictate your schedule. It is going to dictate whether you have weekends to spend with your family or not, or, family events and such, right? It's going to dictate whether you have time to take care of yourself, like working out. And so in my system, I really believe in putting yourself first, and you have to start with you, and then you build your business around it. And remember, your business is just one component of your life, right? You are not your business. You are not, what you do in and out of your business. But when you start centering it around you and your life, when you have those unhappy clients, when you have trolls that leave you bad comments, it doesn't hurt so much anymore, because you understand that the business was really only a part of you, and your identity was not your business, right? So to back up a little bit, I started off as a teacher, and I was a physics teacher. I had to teach kids in South LA how to do physics. And a lot of these kids honestly couldn't do addition or multiplication, because sadly, they actually were dealing with much bigger problems at home that it was very frustrating, because I felt like the school system was not really there to support the child holistically, and I get it. It's hard. Like, having been there for 5 years, it's really hard. And I don't have an answer, like an easy solution to that. But at the end of the day, I remember feeling unsuccessful, because what was I trying to do here? Like, there were some days where honestly, I would have some kids who would come in and talk about like one kid opened up to me about like just witnessing his dad trying to kill his mom, and he had to hide the weapon. It's like, whoa, okay, this kid, the last thing he's thinking about today is physics, right? Like, I was able to get him help. I was able to call, get him resources. Does that define a successful day? Or was it the day that I was able to teach the kid how to solve for momentum, right? And so what I found was that, and just like business, this is what I found, is that every day success in your business is going to look a little bit different. And every quarter, every year, it's going to look a little bit different. And if you don't predefine it for yourself going in, it's going to be really easy to get discouraged. So what I learned from teaching is something called backwards planning. And that is where we start with the end goal first. So for example, the picture that you see here is a picture of, this is what we used to call as like the culminating project. So they had just did a whole lesson on, velocity, momentum, and, acceleration and all that. So their job was to build a roller coaster or an amusement park and describe it, right? What I did was, before I even started teaching them, I sat down and decided for myself, what is my objective here? What is my goal? My goal here is to make sure that they will at least understand the basics of why roller coasters work the way they do. And I would be happy if they could build this and they could just basically explain the difference between potential energy and kinetic energy, and then I also break it down to per level. The advanced kids, wait, do you guys not see Lori says she doesn't see my screen. Do you guys see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm not sure, Lori. I'm not sure, but okay. Hopefully in the replay, you'll at least get the screen share if you're not seeing the screen share. But so the other thing that I also did was I broke it down per level. So my advanced kids who know math will be able to calculate and predict the velocity and the acceleration and such. The medium kids maybe are struggling with math. I am just happy if they are able to explain the concepts. I don't care if they can do math or not. And for my really struggling kids, I am happy if they are happy to stay in school, right? And so that's how I set realistic expectations for myself. So this is what I do with all of my courses when I create with you guys. So even for me, for this 3-day boot camp that I did, I had to sit down as well and ask myself, what am I trying to help you guys achieve by the end of the day? And this is also how, so I have basically 3 different levels that I'm catering to right now. One is the people who have been in business, have been making money, you're already doing this full time, but you feel plateaued and you are trying to reach that next level. How many of you, just kind of like a sign of show of hands, if you are in that level? Great. And what I'm going to show you is what I do every year on how I try to get myself up to that next level. For the middle level, I would say, is somebody who has just started their business. They're newer in their business. They're chugging along. They're still trying to find themselves in this business and how to find more clients, how to even make money, or how to make more money. Any of you feel like that, still pretty new to the business and still trying to establish footing for the business, right? And then I also have people who I help, and I see you on here, and I'm not going to call out any names because I don't know if you want to be put on the spot like that, and actually several of you who this is a side hustle. This is a passion, a hobby at the moment, and you're not sure if you want to do it as a business. Any of you guys feel that way? Yeah. So the way that I teach, there's it accommodates all of you, and every year as you revisit, you will see this class in a different way, and you're going to be doing, and when I give you challenges, they're also different for the different levels as well. So what I'm sharing you in the next 3 days is really just a snippet of a larger program called Like Nobody's Business. And I see some alumni here, but Like Nobody's Business is essentially a small group coaching program. We hop on Zoom weekly like this. It's a 10-week program. And I show you how to build a profitable and sustainable photography business. It's all about working smarter and not harder, because we don't want to burn out, right? I'm going to teach you how to establish more efficient workflows, how to secure consistent income with better marketing, how to maximize your profit with strategic pricing and packages, which we'll touch upon tomorrow. So tomorrow will be about money and how much to charge. How do you know how much you're worth? how to attract better clients with a stronger brand presence. That will be day 3 that we do in this 3 days. Identify tasks that are holding you back so you can automate and streamline more of those processes. So a lot of I think what really helped me build my business as fast as I did was I was able to see the end goal. I had mentors. I was able to meet photographers and work with photographers who were 10 years in, and they showed me and opened my eyes to whoa, that's how a business is supposed to be run. If I didn't know, right? So the way that I see it is business has levels. They're like staircases. And, or you maybe tiny little hills, right? But then there's the next mound and then another little hill. So we chug along our way and we go. But eventually what happens is we hit a wall. And depending on where you are, in your business, eventually you will hit a wall and you have to decide, do I want to do the work that it takes to go up to that next level? Or am I happy here? Because being content is fine as well, right? If you are happy with where you are at, I want to break away from that hustle mentality, and I want to break away from that mentality that we have to keep working for more. Because I felt like as a kid, that was the message that my parents gave me, and it set me up for dangerously never being happy, and never feeling like I'm enough, never feeling like I have enough. But the reality is, again, if you start backwards and ask yourself, what is this life you want? You might realize that you actually get to live your dream life right here. And it's not worth the effort that it takes to go up there, right? However, if you do want to make it up to that next level, you're not going to be able to do it alone. You need somebody who can show you what this terrain looks like up here, because it's somewhere you've never seen before. It's somewhere you've never gone before. So by having a mentor or someone who knows what it's like on that next level, they can now throw down a rope to help pull you up there and to let you know, okay, by the way, this level, it's like a video game, right? This level has a lot of spikes, and this is where the spikes are going to be, and it can save you a lot of time. So that's essentially what I am trying to do for you guys. I'm just trying to help bring up as much photographers as I can. Wheaton just asked, is this useful for someone who is wanting to do fine art photography? I have someone on here who can vouch for you that it has even helped him with his drum instructor class. This is the business model that I'm teaching you here is helpful for any small business. It's really just the fundamentals of building a strong business, any business. And you'll see I use this for any of the other extensions of the businesses that I have built. And Samuel, who's a drum instructor, said that this has even helped him improve his drum business as well. And I don't know if Paul is on here, but she's also a piano teacher, and she said it also helped her with the piano classes. So it's very universal and applicable to all levels. So let's talk about the next 3 days. In the next 3 days, today, I'm going to be sharing with you how to design your ideal life, but going backwards about it. Day 2, we're going to address and how much you are worth. How do you calculate how much you are worth? How much do we charge? How much am I supposed to charge? I find that a lot of times business owners make pricing subjective. And you tell me if you relate to this or not, but on days when you feel more confident, you quote higher. And on days when you're not feeling as confident, you start to undercut yourself, right? And so I'm going to share with you ways to make it so that it's very objective and not subjective. So it's not going to depend on your mood that day, because we all have our ups and downs. That's just the reality of it. We all feel more confident some days than others, but your business should not be dependent on those ups and downs. Day 3 is who has your money. I learned that I was watching a show Undercover Billionaire. Have you guys seen that? And it was, what's that? Cordove, that 10X guy, but Grant Cordove, and he was one of the contestants on the game. And it's basically they got all of their money taken away and their name taken away. And they now have, and there's 3 of them, and they now have to compete to see who can make the first million with nothing, from scratch. And his mentality the whole time was like, who has my money? And that's how he approached it. Like they got dropped into a brand new town, like in the middle of nowhere, and they had to try to figure it out. And he's just looking around like, who has my money? So that's what our day 3 is going to be, is identifying. So day 2 is how much you need to make, how much you should make. And day 3 is who has your money and how to find them. All right. So Cardone, thank you, James. So for day 1 today, like one of the biggest point that I'm going to be helping you with is stop chasing and start attracting. Know what your end goal is. Otherwise, it is going to be an endless chase if you don't know where you're trying to go. And the worst part is you might even be headed down the wrong path and not even realize it, because you're going to start getting gig offers. Like, I don't know if Alicia is on here today, but she's a past student. And she said that one of the things that my class really helped her was to identify which gigs she should say yes to and which gigs she should say no to. Because she found herself like, there is like that balance of trying to make money and trying to pay bills, right? And there's a fine balance between that. But she was finding herself taking these gigs that really was taking her away from what her end goal was and wasn't giving her time to work on what her end goal was. And so after taking the class, she had the confidence to start saying no to some of these gigs because she knew what her end goal was. And it was very easy to say, does it meet my end goal or not? You know, and sometimes your temporary end goal could be paying the bills, and that is fine too. So you could say, I'm going to take this gig today because I need to pay that check that's coming up tomorrow. And that is totally fine, right? But then you also, so you have like the short-term goals and the long-term goals. So the first thing I want you to think about, and if you guys have a notepad, go ahead and start writing, or you can type. I want you to think about, what do you value most? I want you to think about, you know, you can close your eyes for a moment and just put yourself in your dream life right now. You are living your ideal life, doing what you love, and you are happy. In your happy place, what's happening there for you? What are your values? Who are you with? What kind of environment are you in? Are you indoors? Are you outdoors? What kind of light? What does the light look like in this happy place? Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? Is it dramatic? Like, it could be a stage, right? It could be like a performance on stage with dramatic purple lights and spotlights and stuff. Or is it more like airy, all white, dreamy kind of place? Is it, are you surrounded by trees, or are you surrounded by beach, or are you indoors? Yeah, so go ahead and write those things down. The reason why this is important is because this is going to start dictating how you're going to start marketing and what you're going to go for. So don't take this step for granted. I know a lot of times it's hard to like dig deep, and some of these questions are harder to answer because it's stuff that we may not want to admit ourselves sometimes, or take the time to think for ourselves. But if you don't, like, this is where I find that, like, if there is any courses where the instructor is trying to get you to be like them, I say turn away, because there's not one model that's going to fit everybody. And just because it's working for one person is not going to work for you, because what is feeding their soul and what is meeting their values may not meet your values. So for example, if you start thinking about your dream gigs, are they destination weddings or destination events? Are you traveling for work? Right? So this is something like I'd like you to be taking note of as well. Like, are you, James mentioned shooting famous people. Are you shooting famous people, or are you shooting, the girl next door or the guy next door type of people, and, where you're having very real conversations with? Or are you mostly dealing with managers? that's something to consider as well. Are you with family in this dream life of yours? Do you have children? And if you have children, how many days do you want to be with the children? In my case, one of the things that made me change my business model was my aging parents. You know, I started off doing a lot of destination weddings like 12 years ago. And, you know, eventually I started to realize my parents were aging and I don't want to like turn around and realize didn't get enough time with them. So your geographic location, where are you working? For me, at least for now, I want to be physically close to my parents. That's important to me. So what I had to do was I had to stop marketing destination weddings and I had to start marketing locally. And I had to start finding people who have my money locally rather than globally like I was doing before, right? When you have a good business structure like this is what we call scaling. You can scale up or down based on your life, you know, life situations. So right now I'm going to adjust and pivot my business to be a little bit more local so I could be close to my parents. And you know what, and my kids as well, because they're still in elementary school. But maybe when they start going to college, maybe I will then start to, you know, change the course again, right? But when you have this system, you can easily switch as you go. The other thing to consider is with your business, how important is creativity to you? How important is it to be innovative and to be doing something different all the time versus something that is very consistent and stable? Let me give you an example. So there are very successful like baby photography studios. And I know I could do this too, if I value this, where it's the exact same look. This is in my studio, you come in and I'm just gonna photograph your babies and make them look exactly the same. And you will get consistency. It is really easy to market this. And people who will come in, love your work, and it becomes like a well-oiled machine and you are just churning out work. So depending on your values, right? If you want like an easy workflow, something that is just making money easily that you don't have to think, having like a studio like this would be ideal. However, I have creative ADHD. I think I just have ADHD, to be honest. Never diagnosed, but I genuinely believe I do. And for anyone who's worked with me before, like Andriana, you know, like my mind is like, like Andriana was my second assistant years ago. But I need to be creative. So for me, creativity is a value of mine. And I'm okay if I have to innovate every time. But this is how I balance it out. In my business, I have what I call, it's going to sound mean, but in some way, it's not as bad as it sounds, but I call them paycheck gigs. Paycheck gigs are gigs that I take to pay the bills. It's what I do stability, because I do believe that for me, I need a balance of both. If I don't feel secure, I cannot be creative because I will be worried, right? So I really do need the financial stability to be able to think creatively. So the way that my business is set up is that I have very consistent, safe work that I know is just regular. You know, these babies first year packages I book, like one newborn will bring me four shoots that 1 year. So if you think about it, if I just find 25 newborns that year, I have secured myself 100 gigs for that year, right? 100 shoots that year. So that's how I balance the two. So I have my stability work. I think stability work sounds better than paycheck work. But yeah, so I have my stability work, the stuff that keeps me going. And then I have my creative and fun stuff. When the right client walks through the door, it's like, ooh, can I have fun with you? I want to do something fun with you. That's what keeps me creatively charged. And why I still love what I do, right? So that's how I know I need to balance things out. Another thing to ask yourself in your dream life, are you working alone or with a team? Are you in a collaborative environment? Do you work best with others? I work best with others. I need somebody to bounce ideas off of. I'm an extrovert. If I sit by myself, I can't hear my own thoughts. Like I have to say them out loud. And so I need a team. I need an assistant, at least one assistant. I need a right-hand person. And I just know that about myself. If I'm going to be doing these productions, like these mini sessions, I need a team. I can't do it myself. So I have someone who helps me install, I come up with a general idea, they bring me back ideas, it's a collaborative process. And I like that. I like bouncing ideas. However, you might find that you work better in solitaire. And that's okay too, to know that, right? But that's important to know about yourself because this is how you're going to build that business. So in this business, are you working alone in a quiet space, or are you working with other people? So these are a couple of the things that we talk about in the full coaching program, and then how to build that business so that you are really fulfilling yourself and honoring yourself and your needs and your wants. The reality is that only you know the answer to this first step. This is the very first step to building a business, and only you can answer this part of it. So this is like part of what homework 1 is going to be about today, is knowing that, because I can't tell you how to run your business if you don't know what that end business you want to look like, right? But once I know that you value solitude, or once I know that you value teamwork as opposed to teamwork, once I know you value being outdoors versus indoors, right? These are all going to come together to mold what your end business model is going to look like. So the second step today is, once you know what your values are and what you need your business to look like, then the next step is to build your business based on the right model for you. Did you know that there's more than one photography business model? Like, how many of you didn't know that, or wasn't aware that there are different models? I find oftentimes, and I honestly roll my eyes at this, but I see a lot of people who are on Instagram coaching, and their mentality is like, do it like the way I do. Copy what I'm doing. This is what how you have to do it. And I'm like, no, there's actually more than one way to get there. And the way that you're working is working great for you, but not for other. And that's kind of like one sign that I can immediately tell that they're kind of inexperienced coaches, because it's more about them and what they're doing so great versus what you need, right? Because it's going to look different. So let's talk about the different models. Oh yeah, what? There's more than one model? So the 3 business models that you can successfully do, there's not one that is better than the other. It really comes down to which one fits your lifestyle the best. But you can either be a freelance photographer, you can be a boutique photographer, or you could be a high volume photographer. And again, you can do hybrids of these as well. Like Paula, who did my previous Like Nobody's Business coaching program, we found something for her that was a blend of boutique and high volume. But I'm explaining, yes, Kay Jackson, yes, you can do more than one. So Paula, I was able to show her how she was able to blend boutique with high volume. And I am a blend of boutique, high volume as well. But I'm showing it to you 3 very just distinctly first, because you have to it's easiest when you just understand them individually first, and then you can start to mold it and create a blend that's right for you. This is an example of, there were 2 more photos, but it's not showing up right now. But this is an example of something that my associate photographer shot. So I have since started to branch out into, I wanted to show you how like an example of how my business does actually a little bit of each. So with the freelance stuff, I am not the freelance photographer per se, but I have started to hire freelance photographers. So now in my business, and understand that the reason why I do things a certain way is because I have certain values at this moment, right? Which may look different than yours. But my value at the moment is I want to spend more time with my family. My oldest son is 11 and starting to enter that teenage years. And I think this is a very pivotal time for him becoming a man. And I don't want to screw it up. So for me, a priority is to be there to raise him. Another priority for me is, like I've mentioned before, my parents. Like I will honestly be devastated the day that I lose them, but I also am accepting that that day will come. And so the only thing I can do is make the most of it now, right? So these are things that I want to value. So the other thing that I know, so knowing that that's my value, right? I want to be creative. So, and I like working with people. I like having a team around me. I like leading. I like managing a group of people. So that's something to consider as well. When I was mentioning your ideal life, like, do you see yourself managing people or do you not like to manage people? So that's why I don't push one model on anybody, because everyone is a little bit different. So I'll touch on boutique next, but so I'm just going to touch on freelance first. But freelance is great because the people that I look for to freelance for me are people who just like to shoot. They don't want to run the business side of things. They don't want to edit. They don't want to deal with inquiries. They don't want to do sales and marketing. So, and like Adriana was like a freelance photographer for me way in the past. And if you want to come back, let me know. But yeah, so a lot of this is like, I'll meet photographers along the way who I realize like, I just want to shoot. That's my happy place, creating photographs. I don't want to do any of the art. So James, yes, if you think of it as just dollars, yes, they make less because I do take a cut, right? But what you make and what your life is about is more than just the dollar amount, right? Because time is also something as well. Time is very valuable. I think time is more valuable than money as well. Would you guys agree? Because time you can't get back. So for example, if you the right photographer for a freelance gig is somebody who gets drained from doing the computer work. Someone who gets drained from having to do sales and marketing. If that drains you, then why spend your time doing that, right? So like, yes, you are taking a smaller cut for letting someone else do that for you. But at the same time, your work now is only the parts that you like. You're only doing the stuff you like, which is the shooting part of it. So freelance is good for that. And it could be a living, it depends. I mean, you could make a lot as a freelance photographer. Some, depending, there are some freelance photographers who charges $250 an hour. I think that's a great living, right? If you are able to demand that much. In some ways, I can act like a freelance photographer too, because sometimes there are agencies who reach out to me and said, hey, and I know that I'm being subcontracted in that case, and that's fine too. But I throw out my rate, and if they're willing to pay it, then they're willing to pay it, then that's fine too, right? And so that's one. That is one. Also the thing too to know is that in terms of value, there are some people who, like, another thing important to know for yourself is, are you the sole provider and how much you need to make? So in the full program, I do sit down and we figure out how much you need to make and which is the business, like which business model. And we break down financially the 3 different business models, so you may not know exactly today, because like I said, in the full program, it takes about 3 weeks for us to get to that point. But one part is we do break down financially the 3 models to see which one fits for you. But the reality is some people only have to do this for as a lifestyle for fun. Like not for fun, you know, but like they do have a spouse who is like able to hold down the fort, so to speak. So they are bringing in money. There are some people who really need, so there are some people who need to make, who are happy making 50 grand. And there are some people who need to make 200 grand, just say, like, depending on where you want to live, right? So in the full program, we do break down like your living expenses, where you live matters, how much it takes to live in that place, how much you need to make, and then based on the different business models, which one is going to be the right fit for you. So, okay. So I think that's kind of gives you an idea about freelance. The next one is boutique. Hold on, let me just pause that for a second. So a boutique photographer is somebody who, oh, look, the rest of the photos came in. Okay. But yeah, so this is now that you can see the rest of the photo, the freelance photographer is somebody who I actually train to teach to shoot like me. I actually give them like the same lighting formula, the same posing formula as well. And they go out and they just replicate, they act like a mini me in many cases. And as a freelance photographer, a lot of times, and even when you do commercial gigs, a lot of times that's how it is. Because when I take commercial gigs, very seldom, well, not seldom, I take that back. I do get to art direct depending on the package that they book, but it's very common that when you are taking a commercial gig, they're telling you what they need. They're telling you what their campaign is for that season and what the look is, and you have to complete that, their end goal, right? So that's the main difference between freelance and boutique. Freelance is like, you're going to be told what you need to create and how to create it. So for me, when I hire freelance photographers, I'm not giving them artistic freedom, because they have to be on brand with my brand. So it's, there's some creative, some creativity involved with it, right? But for the most part, there is a basic skeleton structure that they have to follow. You have to follow this lighting formula because people are going to expect the coloring to look a certain way. And you're going to have to at least have these minimum poses that all of my clients are going to expect. But after that, you can play around with it. This works for mini sessions as well. And I do hire on really busy seasons during the holidays. I do have like a day of mini sessions that are completed by freelance photographers, just to be able to complete the goal of accommodating, the people. And also, just to be clear, it doesn't hurt my bottom line, because at the end of the day, there's actually not many people who can afford me to shoot them. And I know that. I take less than 10% of my inquiries. So what am I doing with that whole other 90% of the inquiries? So my solution was to at least have some people who I can train to be like mini me's and then go shoot at a fraction of the cost. So it's a win-win for this situation, because they get to shoot what they love. They get trained by me, and my clients get very similar photos at a more reasonable price. What they don't get is me physically being there with them. And a lot of people will pay for that. So it depends, right? But I think there's a little bit for everybody and all. So the difference between boutique photographer now is boutique, they are hiring you for you. They want your special touch. They want your style. They want your creativity. They want your art direction, right? Versus a freelance is they are hiring a product. So for me, for freelance, as long as they get the photos to look a certain way, they are happy with the end product. But boutique is somebody who specifically wants to work with me. And I was just going to show you, like, because I'm able to hand off a lot of like these smaller gigs, it gives me time to do bigger production stuff, like what I'm going to show you next. And you may have seen it before, but I love it a lot. It is an engagement session that I was able to turn into an all-day shoot. It went from initially being like a 1-hour engagement session to upselling them to, what if I help you like do a full production? I'm going to come up with the whole storyline, like pay for wardrobe styling. We will take care of your wardrobe, your hair and makeup, and I'll even make a video for you. So it's like a little music video that we created for them. And I love the results of it. But this one was done during the pandemic. And I can't tell you how much it like fed my soul. But if I was so busy and hung up on doing small gigs like this, I would not have had time to have poured that much energy into something like this. So let me share with you one of my, I had a lot of favorite projects during the pandemic, but this was one of my favorite projects from the pandemic. So I love that. Like that was like the kind of work that I was like, I need to do more of these. Like I would be so happy if I could just book um, one client a quarter that allowed me this much creative freedom to do it. Sandra, it was actually in LA, but it was Palm Spring inspired. I wanted to do Palm Springs. And so I looked for a place in LA that had the Palm Spring vibes. And then Mary said, oh, I thought it was La La Land. And La La Land was actually a result of this. So La La Land originally, and if you haven't seen, I did this one engagement session for somebody that was La La Land inspired, but they originally contacted me for just a photo shoot that I was able to convince them to do like a whole video. And it ended up being a 3-day production where I produced them like their own it's their favorite movie. I was able to create them like their version of La La Land with them two in it. It was so fun. But again, like that's something, you know, I would not have that kind of time, right, to do this kind of stuff if I didn't have the smaller gigs handed out. So that's just an idea for you of why, like boutique, of what you can do with a boutique gig. So for me, like they pay a lot for this. So like, for example, my La La Land client, right? They wanted me. It wasn't just like the video. I mean, the video was awesome, but it was me. Like they loved my idea. They loved they were inspired just being around me, right? So that was, and they trusted me to have that much like to give me that much creative freedom with their project. So with boutique stuff, you charge a lot more for it, but that's because that's like your special sauce. So it depends on how you want to run your business, right? But then you also have to market yourself as that boutique studio or photographer. So the third, so that video that you saw, that I actually did it all myself too. I did photo and video at the same time. But I also do have freelance videographers that I bring on if I feel like there won't be enough time or if it's too rushed and such. But a lot of times, like I find myself way happier when I do it myself, or if it is a videographer who will really let me art direct and be like the DP, the director of photography over it. But I have found that there's certain gigs that are like staples, right? So there are gigs that I have created that are just standard now. Like I was showing you the baby stuff, right? So there's a formula to that, and I can train any videographer to step in and recreate that. So that's fine. I don't like to do anything twice, if you know me. So if I have come up with an awesome system, I will rather train someone else to repeat it. And I'd rather be moving on to doing new things. I am happiest when I'm creating something new. So that's, and that video was shot on the Fujifilm X-T4 on just whatever, like white balance was on auto mode. It was graded with my LUTs though. Are you familiar with video LUTs? My presets? So they're just like presets. So my presets also have video LUTs, and it's to make your videos look like to match my photos, which are on sale, by the way, right now. If you look in our Facebook group, I posted a link to it. But yeah, so that's how I got the photos and the videos to have the same coloring feel to it. All right, so the third one I want to share with you, the third model is high volume. This is another business that I started, and this was started with the intention of being high volume. This is called Magic Paper Studios, and we create these custom illustrated backdrops. They are for sale, by the way, like, because again, it's high volume. So I do take on like partner photographers who want to also offer these in their area. But the inspiration for this, remember, I only like to create things one time. So I wanted to create an ABC book for my kid that actually featured my kid. I used to buy ABC books for them when they were babies. And I was like, why am I buying? Like, wouldn't it be so cute if they were in the photos? So I had this idea that it would be like, A is for ants. There were more, but he knocked them over at this age. There were apples and other stuff too. B is for bicycle. B is for basket. B is for blanket, right? C is for cake. So, and it goes all the way to Z, but this was an idea I had. So I collaborated with my colleague Kat, and we made this happen. We designed the set. This set has now been designed to be mobile thanks to the pandemic. And so now it can travel anywhere. So I was setting them up in front of people's garages. I was just showing up to like, and it was fun. I loved creating it. Do I want to keep repeating it? I don't want to keep doing this because it's not creative anymore, right? I love the idea. I just don't want to physically be doing it. So I trained another photographer to do it, to have the same lighting, to have the same poses. And so now this has become a high volume studio where I hired a manager. And so she handles all the bookings and then she gets someone else. So I'm only overseeing, like, I'm acting more like the CEO at this point, making sure that I talk to partnerships if we're going to do like partners with people, collaborators, and all that. And then just to give you a little idea of the final product.
AB Seasons allows your child to be the star of their very own personalized alphabet book that highlights the growth of your child in 4 seasonal photo shoots over the span of 1 year.
So that was my son, my second son, and my partner's daughter that we created. And I love it. I still love the product. I love creating it, you know, but I have a team that handles that now. So that is what a high volume photography studio would look like. So if that is something that fits your lifestyle, that's something you would want to consider, right? Something where if you, and this is the right business model for you if you enjoy managing people, because it's a lot of managing people at that point. You know, you can start to become the creative director that comes up with new products. So we're launching a new, so then for holiday, we launched a new set, which was the holiday set like this. We're coming up with a new one that's going to be released soon, which is a travel themed one. And so it's the right fit for me because I like coming up with new concepts. I don't like repeating things. So I have a trained team that repeats things for me, and I can keep innovating, right? So again, there's no one right or wrong model. It really depends on which one fits you. So your homework for today is to, if you haven't already, but maybe, you know, sometimes it's hard to do it live like this, but and share it in the group if you are willing so that we can help hold you accountable. But I want you to make a list of what your values are. And I want you to describe your dream life. And then just kind of based off of that, if you want, identify which best business model is for you. And again, you can kind of think of it as like the 3 different levels, right? So for the people who are very far along, you'll be able to complete all 3 right now. You'll be able to tell me what you value, what you want your dream life to be, and you already know this is the right business model for me. The middle level, I would say, is like, I know what I like, I know what I want, but I'm not sure like which business model. I don't see how it fits into a business model yet, and I can help you with that as well. Or you might even just be like, I don't know what I want my dream life to be yet. I still need to decide that. And that's okay too, right? Because it could be like, I don't know if I want kids or not yet. That's a very real life decision, right? I'm happy to tell you, I ran my business with kids and without kids, and I can say that it can be done either way. And so I've done the destination wedding for a couple years, was my main market, switched to local. I went from mostly weddings to majority portraits now, with just a couple very high-end weddings. So, I'm happy to help you navigate that to see how it fits you. The other thing that can be done too is knowing that, you know what, in 10 years, I want my business to look like this. I am going to work my way to get there, but I don't quite want to be there yet. So for example, for me, I know in 10 years, my kids are going to be off to college. So I know that I want to eventually prep for that, but I don't want that now, like I'm not prepping for that now, but I am making sure that foundations are laid to keep that in mind so that in 10 years, I'm ready for that. But in the meantime, I want it to look like this, right? So those are all things that we can help you navigate as well. So please share it in our group. It's a wonderfully supportive group that will help you. You're going to find people who resonate with what your issues is. If you are struggling with any of this, let us know too. I really struggle between, wanting to do fine art photography versus a portrait studio. And this is why, and then we can help you work it out. Like, here are the pros and cons. We'll list out the pros and cons to help you make a better decision. So, and if you are ready for, if you would like to apply for the coaching program, applications do open today. It's based on application. It's an application process only because I do really make sure that we have a good team, like a good cohort that has good energy, that's good supporting. I'm not looking for levels because I do purposely like the different levels, like the level 1, 2, and 3 I was talking about. So it's not about the level, but it's more about the synergy that's created, So like last time when Samuel did it, him and Paulo both had music backgrounds. And I like that, like there was like ways to bounce off of that. It's going to be around 30 people. And as people will like a class, when I was teaching, like each class, my high school classes were like 36. That was the class sizes back then. They did 42 on me too, which I thought was big, but I think 36 is manageable. But right now I'm aiming for 30. I think that would be a nice way for me to still get to know all of you guys personally. And the way it works is there's 7 pre-recorded classes, and then you watch them each. There's 7 pre-recorded modules, but some of them are actually long. So some of them will be broken up and will take like 2 weeks to complete or 3 weeks to complete, for example. So you go home and I'll say, everybody, today homework is to watch video 1, and then you have a homework assignment, like how I gave you today. Your homework assignment is to write down your values, share it with the group like that, right? The course is 10 weeks total. There are 2 weeks in there that we don't meet. So we meet for 8 weeks. So there is a break in between, but it goes for the duration of 10 weeks. You go home, you watch the video on your own, you do the homework on your own, and then we come back and have a discussion about it. And the discussion is really where the value comes in, because that is where people talk about like more personal, like how it applies to them personally, or any struggles that you're having, like, okay, I don't know how to make this work for my life, right? Or this is where like a couple people might be like, I'm both struggling with this, right? Then I might like have you guys have pair up to work on something. So I do give, as any of like the alumni here know, I do give like personalized homework too as I see needed. So as we're on the group, I might see like, you know, Mary, like this would be really helpful for you. You should try this week. And then I'll give you something specific that I think is helpful for your situation. And let me know, you know, like it's best when you participate. You could passively watch it as well, but I find it's best if you actually do the homework and come back and have a discussion about it. But are there any questions? I can open up to a couple minutes of Q&A here, but we're doing great on time. Let's see. Jackie, is your hand raised because you have a question, or is it just left raised from earlier? But if you guys have any question, feel free to like unmute and ask. Yeah, Sandra.
How many hours, as you know, I've taken one course. How many hours of course, if you add up the coursework or the viewing the modules plus the assignments, how many hours a week are you physically doing homework? I guess you could say, or cumulative work.
It is, so the class, the online, okay, here, let's see, where did I list out what you get? Okay, so
Oh,
there's 7 modules in the class, and I think it's probably about 7 hours or 8 hours total of content, but you know, that's broken up over 10 weeks, right? So you're not watching like the full. So it's probably about like 30 to 45 minutes of like watching the class and completing. There's worksheets too with this one.
yeah, but once you do your assignments, how many are you talking about? Like 5 hours a week of your time cumulatively or less?
I think it's less. I think it's
Okay.
2.5 hours probably a week.
Cool.
It's not like the portrait bundle that you did, because the portrait bundle that you did, you had to actually go out and shoot.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah,
I'm
this
actually-
homework is not shooting because it's all business related. So this is all like, there's worksheets and spreadsheets that come with
Okay,
it.
cool.
And so it's all about like taking the time to fill out and answer the questions and stuff. So it's kind of like what today's homework is. It's more reflective and, but there are like calculators that I have created for you guys too. So then it's like going in and inputting numbers in. You know,
Very
we go through like calculating packages, creating the ideal package, pricing, how to price. So those things, it's more like working out type of homework.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's, if you guys have any, K Jackson, what is your first name? Unmute yourself. Oh, you're still muted. If she's on her phone, where's the unmute button? Or maybe you can type it in the chat if I'm not able to hear you, but I'll answer it out
On
loud.
the bottom, there's 4 dots on the bottom on your iPhone.
Oh, she's asking, how do you apply? So if you scan that QR code that I had earlier, or it's carolinetranseducation.com/business coaching, there's the application here. So if you click on that, like I'll email you the application. And so I will be doing like I'm going to give a couple days for people to submit their application. I plan to do my first round of application reviews Thursday. I like to like let people know sooner than later. So I'll probably let like first round of people know by the end of this week if they're in. And then if there's also the possibility that I will find like the perfect set of 30 people for the class. So I would recommend, if, you know, I don't charge for the application. So I recommend if you're even considering it, go ahead and apply just to make sure that, you know, you have that option. So then that way in case it fills up on that first round, you've secured yourself a seat.
Well, can you hear me now? I'm so sorry.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I had to go to my settings. My question, it was about how to apply, but also I've taken, I've had a business coach and I have had a mentor. I took a course from a really great couple and I have all of this and I still feel stuck. So I guess my question for you is, with this course, you know, I'm all about paying for my education, but I don't want to spend more money and feel like I didn't receive.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so I kind of want to know, like, I know that this is more of a group setting and, you know, you just explain what it is, but how can I really benefit from it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you got specifically previously, but what I would do is find out exactly what areas you feel stuck in, like whether it's the lack of vision or is it the
It's
lack of knowing what or how?
It's how to get to the next level. Like, I feel like I've done well. I've only been doing this for 2 years and I feel like I do okay to only have been in business for 2 years, you know? But I'm trying to elevate my finances because I do it full time, but I don't make a lot of money.
Okay. So
and-
what are your priorities? To make more money,
I
charge more.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if I charge enough
Okay.
for my quality of work, I guess.
Mhm.
And I definitely want to decide if I want to be more high volume or boutique. You know, I'm definitely high volume in the fall, but January through August, I'm just kind of grasping at straws,
So
you know.
you can actually do both. So what
Okay.
I would recommend is, if no one has ever sat down with you to figure out what you need to be charging, like that's a really important step in business.
They have. It's my confidence.
Okay. So the other thing, actually one of my favorite modules in this program, it's chapter 2, and it's a self-evaluation quiz of yourself to make you realize like what areas, and confidence is one of the areas that we address. So
Okay.
when you do the self-evaluation, it really helps zone in on the areas that you need to work on. And if it's
Okay.
confidence, there are specific homework that I will give you that's just about like building up that confidence. So, and like I said, everyone is going to have different areas, right? So, but knowing that quiz really helps you and me know what areas you need to work on. And if you're feeling stuck, we need to first figure out what that blockage is first and unblock it. So
Yeah.
with you, what I would do is first figure out, like, you know, what's bringing down the confidence, because it could be a skill thing, it could be a more of just an emotional, you know, thing, like it's right in your head.
It's definitely in my head. It's emotional. I feel I still have imposter syndrome.
We can work on that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, like without diving deeper, it's hard to say exactly, you know, but it is very personalized in that way where, and I encourage you to be vocal with me throughout the process, right? So, and we will have a private Facebook group that's just for us. And, you know, vent it all out in there. You know, like Sandra's been in my previous course before, and she, like, I love how vulnerable you get and you share very openly, but I think that's why you were improving a lot too, because you weren't afraid to put it out there, right? Like, this is what I'm struggling with. And then we were able to help give you solutions and stuff. So I encourage you to, like, it's a safe space. I do establish that. It's a community that will be just us, everyone who's also taken the course, who understands the struggle. And chances are you're not alone. You know, like, I forget how many different things that I test you on, but at the end, like, you're gonna have common struggles with other people as well. And so I'll give you guys like homework assignments of what to do based on common struggles.
Thank you. I
Amy. Yeah.
Hi, can you see me?
Yes. Hi, Amy.
Hi. So I really relate to that person who just spoke. I didn't get her name. So I'm also willing to pay for my education, and I have a big conference coming up in May, and I'm always in conferences, and I'm going to be 52 in a few months, and I've been doing photography for a very long time, but I just started my business really in like 2 years ago, and feel like I'm in this race where I'm like, okay, before I can't pick up my camera anymore. I gotta get there. But basically I focus on boudoir photography. So I love that. But I feel like because I'm not bringing in enough clients, I do have a full-time job, which fortunately I do like that too, but it's working with children with autism under 3. So my body also is like, okay, enough of that after 20 years. Now I got to really focus on what I've always wanted to focus, was the photography. I love your style. I am more of a dark and moody photographer. So it's, again, like the speaker was saying before, just kind of figuring out how to get there fast. I feel I've had more confidence in the last few years. I've developed a lot more confidence, but I'm not bringing in the clients. And I know it's the marketing, and I know where my flaws are. I feel I can learn my techniques. I can learn my editing and all that stuff. I just, the marketing and all that. And I just, before I invest in another, I just want to make sure.
You guys probably have already noticed this, but early on in my photography career, when I was first starting the business, what made me decide to be a photographer or pursue a photography business was because at the time I looked up some of the biggest photographers. And if you guys have been in the industry for more than 12 years, you'll know who I'm talking about. I won't say names, but there were some rock stars photographers like back in the day. And I looked at their work and I'm like, this sucks. But they are killing it. They are killing it, right? Like they were doing so well. So that was the realization I had, that was like, you don't have to be a great photographer to do well in this business, sadly, right? So I was like, so if I could just market cleverly the way that they are marketing, but also have good photography, I could do really well. And I was right. Right. So that's kind of like the sad, but could be to your benefit reality, is that good photographs alone are not enough to stay in business. And I have sadly seen so many photographers who are so talented go out of business. And I can tell you it's not because of bad photography, it's because of bad business plan. They didn't have a business plan. So that's what we will come up with. Like by the end of this, you are creating a business plan. We're going to be coming up with your marketing strategy. We're going to be coming up with your pricing strategy. You know, how you present your pricing matters. How you treat the clients when they come into your studio matters. How you deliver the photos at the end of the day matters. All of that speaks to what you're worth. So on day 3, we will talk more about that.
My name is Keisha, by the way. Sorry.
Hi, Keisha. Okay, I was wondering what your first name was.
Keisha.
Nice to meet you, Keisha. All right. Anything else, Amy? Like, I know it's like
it's a struggle.
Yeah, and
it's a struggle because I do feel I'm good. I do IPS. I provide a small video. You know, like I try to do it all. I do realize. I'm sorry.
So do you feel like you're charging enough right now?
I do, but maybe because I'm from New York, maybe not.
So is the struggle finding enough clients?
The right client.
Okay.
Is I think where that's the key word, the right client. Because I do work 9 to 5, I don't push myself to take everybody who comes along. I'm like, if I'm gonna take the job, it's because you're gonna pay me what I feel I am worth. So and when those clients have come by, they haven't even batted an eye at my prices, but it's not enough those right clients.
In this course, what's really going to help you, I can think of, are 2 things. One is the pricing calculator, just to double check to make sure that you are really covering your costs and tax and still have profit at the end of the day. I find that a lot of people miscalculate and they think they're making money, and then tax season comes around, they realize they don't make money. So I do have a calculator for that, a spreadsheet, and then you plug it in and then it will spit out the number that you should be charging. So that will just double check that your packages all make sense. I also have a template for building packages. So maybe you're not, maybe how you're presenting, you might be leaving money on the table. You know, we can explore your IPS as well to see, but the thing that I think is going to help you the most though, is I have in my business what's called a scorecard, and it's basically tracking data, and it's tracking how much inquiries are coming in, you know, how many discovery calls you get on, and it's basically keeping track of where you lose them. And so the quality of the clients, right? So like I said, I take less than 10% of the inquiries that come in, right? And I know, so that's normal for me. But if I suddenly see myself taking suddenly like 50% or 75%, I might be underpriced or something at that point, right? Like, why are so many people suddenly willing to pay for me when they weren't before? And that might be a bad thing. I don't know, right? Like, depending on your business. The other thing too is like trying to find out where you lost them. It could have been on maybe your email response.
I just feel I'm not getting enough inquiries at all.
Oh, okay.
That's when I have gotten the inquiries, I think location has been an issue, because I think where I'm marketing, I'm a little further out than the people who are calling me. I'm not doing enough local marketing.
Okay.
And then the other part of it is when I have gotten those clients who are willing to pay, they don't bat an eye. And then I get the clients who I feel like I really like want, you know, they just want something less expensive, but I'm not willing to go down. Yeah, so it's a lot of.
There's in part of that scorecard, I do track leads as well and where they're coming in, so you can find out where you're getting most of your qualified leads from, and to double down in those areas versus, you know, and then so for example, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook ads, if you do them, Facebook groups, right? So we'll go over like all the different places you can be marketing your service to. So that's what I call the top of the funnel. And it sounds like you need better top of the funnel stuff or lead magnets to get them to even enter your marketing funnel to begin with. So yeah, we will cover that in more depth.
Okay, sounds like I may be applying.
Yeah. I'm going to take Azita next, but there were some questions that came in through DM that I wanted to just address. Somebody asked, how do you show your freelance how to emulate your style? If any of you guys have taken my 15-minute portrait bundle, that was actually a course I created for my freelancers. It teaches how I light, how I pose, like my camera settings that I prefer. And so that one, they took it, they understand it, and then that's how they're able to replicate it after. Somebody asked, does this course cover somebody who doesn't have a studio? I actually don't have a studio anymore, you guys. Like, I gave up my studio during the pandemic. So in
my studio during a hurricane.
Yeah, May. Oh, I'm sorry, Susan. May of
did
20.
you say that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh my God, I'm being a voyeurism here. Oh my. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I had to give up my studio at the start of the pandemic. So I've been operating without a studio since. So a studio is not a requirement to run a successful business. And again, it depends.
Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I miss it, you know, but.
Yes, I mean, same here, but there's a way to build the business depending. And a studio is not the answer for everybody either. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve, and we will figure that out for you. So I can't blanketly say you must have a studio or you don't have a studio, but we will figure out in the end if your business model makes sense to have a studio or not. Somebody else asked, are there one-on-ones included in the course? One-on-ones are not included with the base, but you can add on at any time. And if you're going to do a one-on-one, I recommend either adding it before the course begins, so then we can sit down and really like, come up with like specific personalized goals for you going into the program, and or at the end. So, because the program itself is very, what's that word, extensive. And so it could be wait until the very end, and then we do the one-on-one to tie up loose ends that you're like, okay, I got this far with it. I need this much more to just finish, those, because it's too specific to my case. Kate also said she's not getting inquiries. Yeah, so we will talk about top of the funnel issues. I think, and then Kate asked, can I teach marketing and pricing that doesn't involve IPS? I have done IPS and I have done not IPS. I personally don't love IPS because I don't want to sit there, but IPS is great if it fits you. You can make a lot more money, but I have found alternative solutions that don't cost as much time as IPS, that have made me enough money that I'm happy enough with, right? So it really depends on where you want to put your energy in, but it is another reminder that you don't have to do it all. Don't feel like just because you hear one photographer, offering IPS that you have to do it too, or that somebody is offering video that you have to do it too. It might not fit your style. Okay, sorry, Azita, I know I said it was your turn and I haven't given you your turn, so go ahead. Sorry, IPS is in-person sales.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Can I go now? You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And as your previous student, and I just want to tap into Amy and the other lady was saying, like, they've taken so many other coaching lessons and business coaches and stuff, like just like me. I've done it all for the last 2 years, especially since pandemic, and taking your class, I feel like I got some direction, but it's still like I was gonna ask, like, I feel like I want to do one-on-one with you more now than, because I've done the class before, and I feel like whatever you're saying about ADHD and stuff, like I can, it's all me. And just one-on-one, I feel like it would really benefit me. So it's not a question, it's just like, yeah, I want to just say.
So that's a great, it can turn into a question, which is how do you know if one-on-one is better versus the group coaching class? So the one-on-one is best if you have very specific needs, like unique needs, that you, if you have already taken the class. I have some people who take it again and engage in it differently. Because remember, I say there's like 3 levels, right? So maybe the first time you did the class, you were more like a level 1. And a big part of the class is accountability as well. Yes, you could do it. You have the classes on recording. You could watch it on your own and redo it again. But sometimes you need that person to just remind you to keep doing it. So if any alumni want to retake the class, for the coaching part of it, DM me and I can work out something for you guys, since you already have this course, specifically this course. And perhaps the group coaching is enough to just get you to reevaluate your business. But if you feel that your business, like you already have what you need, but there are specific issues, then let's do a one-on-one and address that specific.
Yeah, I just want to add whatever Amy was saying, like, I'm almost like 10 years in business, and now I'm niching down, certain area, but I'm not getting enough inquiries, and that stress of, because I'm a single parent, so it's just bringing the income and it's not coming, and like I have to pay the mortgage and all those stresses is even killing my, all the passion I have about photography. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit your top of the funnel. So for example, when you did the class the first time, I think we were focused more on the systems, right? So the inside the funnel itself, which you have to have a strong inside of the funnel before you work on the top of the funnel. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this funnel? The marketing funnel. So basically marketing works like a funnel. You get people to come in, you engage with them, and then ultimately you're trying to get them to spit out at becoming a paid client. But if you have a weak funnel, you're going to have all these holes, and that's where you can lose them. So I do top of the funnel as the last step, because you could be out there, I could be skywriting your name across the sky. But if people land on your website and the messaging is all wrong, they will have already leaked out of the funnel at that point. They're not going to convert, right? So maybe the first time you did the class, we were more working on strengthening the actual funnel itself. And then now that now we can start talking about, who you have to go out and reach out to now enter this strong funnel that you have built.
Okay, I will message you, and I want to see if I can talk one-on-one. So
Okay, sounds great.
thank you.
Yeah. Sandra. Sandra will be
Hi.
the last question, and then I'm going to go for lunch, and I'll see you guys back here again tomorrow.
I'll keep it quick. No, in general, it's like, I know that most of the people are in the US and I'm in London, and I think I suffer from the same situation. I've not been charging long for my work, but I think I'm worth more than I'm actually selling myself for. I've done like a SWOT analysis and like a competitive to see who my main competitors would be in the current space that I'm playing in. I think that I want to be more than family photography. I suffer from attention deficit, also like I'm all over the place. So I really need to have, I guess, two business models. One that is the money makers, and the other one that's the creative stuff. That's just the way my brain works. But I was just gonna ask, how does this class help if everyone's in the US, so you're very familiar with the US market, and I'm in London, and the prices are completely different. Do you think that would still help, or
the structure that I give you is really just like it's like business. It's
okay?
not even specific. It applies to even outside of photography. Like I was telling you, Samuel took it and applied it to his drum business, right? Like it's just it's basic calculation. So the numbers you plug in will be unique to your area. That's the difference, So for example, the standard of living in LA is going to look different than the standard of living in, where you're at,
London,
right? Yeah. Or in Iowa or something like that. And so part of like that dream life that I have you doing as well, and that's why it's important, is because where you live, your geographic location matters in the sense that it's going to determine what your cost will be, what you need to maintain to live there. And also it may also be what you are able to charge in that area too. So it's it will all reflect in the spreadsheets that you plug in.
Yeah, because at the moment I'm like most of the business, I just got like 3 inquiries this week, which is actually a record for me in one go. Yay. But it's been more a lot of word of mouth and like, oh, someone told me you're doing this, and then it's kind of like now picking up really fast. But I don't have the business model to be like, I feel like right now I'm being reactive instead of proactive. I guess you could say that's the best approach, and I'm just trying to switch that out. So I think I'm not as advanced as other people. I'm a side hustler for now, but with a dream to do this full time. But yeah, we shall see. Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, answer the question. I think I just need all the help I can get, and I do not want to take any of the other classes I've seen online where I just feel like everyone wants to copy whatever that photographer's doing, and I don't believe that. Everyone's style is completely different. The personality is different. You cannot be forced someone to be very salesy if they're not naturally that way,
Yeah, exactly. That's why, like I was saying, for example, with IPS, it's not for everyone, like not everyone wants to sit there and sell to a client. Some people love it, and that's great. It can do really well for you. But for me, anytime that I find myself not happy, like I ask myself, like, what specifically is draining me right now? And can I minimize how much I have to do that? And it might either be coming up with a different solution or teaching someone else to do it for me.
Yeah.
Mia said she had a question for me, but I don't see it, Mia. So oh, yes. So Mia says she can't make it to tomorrow. I will send you guys a replay of this. So rest assured with that, you guys will get a replay in your email. So whitelist me if you haven't. Sometimes it goes into spam. But all right, thanks everyone. This was so much
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank
you again.
I look forward to hearing about your reflections and your homework and seeing what you guys, hopefully like have a better understanding of what you want. So we'll connect more online and in the Facebook group, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.
Nice meeting you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.